You can have it all. Great pay, awesome benefits, a flexible schedule, the chance to grow. At Cox, we're recruiting auto and diesel technicians to join our Mannheim and Fleet Services teams. If you're ready for a new job and want to experience an award-winning workplace, drive your career forward with us. Visit cox.career/autotech to learn more. That's cox.career/autotech.
The most wonderful time of the year. Although, let's be honest, around the holidays, things really add up. But here's the good news. Only at Verizon, you can get a single line for $50 per month when you switch and bring your phone. So, while ice skating for two is definitely costing more, here at Verizon, you can save. Gifts for your third cousins? Steep. A single line with Verizon? Not so steep. A real tree? Pricey. A single line with Verizon? Less pricey. Flights to see Mima and Pops? Those are up. A $50 per month single line? That's down. Even a trip to the Atlanta Holiday Market will cost you more. But with Verizon, you can switch and bring your phone for just $50 per month for a single line on unlimited welcome, with autopay plus taxes and fees. All this to say, during the holiday season, when everything is costing more, you can get more for less right now at a local Verizon store. $15 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G, 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply.
It's the SNL Hall of Fame podcast with Chief Conversationalist Thomas Sena. Featuring Matt Ardill. And special guest, Rebecca North. And now, curator of the hall, JD.
Thank you so much, Doug DeNance. It's me, JD, and I am delighted to join you here at the SNL Hall of Fame. I don't know where you were brought up, but by the looks of those shoes, they haven't been wiped in weeks. Get her done. The SNL Hall of Fame podcast is a weekly affair where each episode we take a deep dive into the career of a former cast member, host, musical guest, or writer and add them to the ballot for your consideration. Once the nominees have been all announced, we turn to you, the listener, to vote for the most deserving and help who will be enshrined for perpetuity in the hall. And that's how we play the game, folks. It's just that simple. This week on the pod, we're joined by the wonderful Rebecca North. You may remember her from last season when she successfully nominated Maya Rudolph to the Hall. This week, she will be engaging in conversation centering around the talented Aidy Bryant. But before we get to business with Thomas and Rebecca, let's talk about voting, which opens up next week. That's right. Voting for the Hall of Fame opens next Monday, December 2nd at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. That's when you get your say in who is elected to the Hall. There are 38 names on the ballot this year, and you get 15 votes. So use them wisely. If you would like me to send you a ballot by email, I can do that. Simply send me an email at thesnlhalloffame@gmail.com. That's the SNL Hall of Fame @gmail.com, and I'll be sure to send that out to you. So there's that. Let's go find our friend Matt Ardill. He's got to be lurking around here somewhere. Oh, Matt.
Hey, JD, how you doing?
I'm doing great today. How about you, Matt?
I am terrific. I'm really looking forward to talking about today's nominee. They're one of my favorite cast members.
Who you got?
Aidy Bryant. Yeah. 5'3", born May 7th, 1987 in Phoenix, Arizona.
87. Jeez Louise.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting into, I was in high school when they were born. It's truly disturbing at this point. But hey, we're getting old. She attended Xavier College Preparatory before taking improv at the Arizona Jewish Theater Company, and going on to attend Columbia and taking the college's comedy studies program, which was in fact developed by Second City, which I didn't know. Now, on graduation, she toured with the musical improv company Baby Wants Candy, also attending Improv Olympics in Second City, She has 38 acting credits, 3 writing credits, and 3 producer credits. Nominated for 3 Emmys. She met her husband, Connor O'Malley, at the Annoyance Theater in Chicago. Another great improviser and comedian. And she's had some cameos in films that a lot of people don't realize. She appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man briefly, and The Big Sick, which she mostly improvised her lines in that film.
Get out.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're trusted to improvise in a film, that usually means you know what you're doing. So that's Aidy Bryant.
I love it. I'm really curious to see what happens with her this year.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, let's go down and hear the case that is going to be made.
All right, yes, Matt and JD, thank you so much. Welcome to another conversation portion of the SNL Hall of Fame. I am your chief conversationalist, Thomas Sena, and today's episode is a good one, a very, very, very recent cast member, which might not be a great thing for the nominee. We'll get into it with my guest today, but you know, as I think we've seen from last season, like really recent cast members, especially with Aidy Bryant, our nominee today, might not be such a great thing for her. But I hope so, because I love Aidy Bryant, and so does my guest today, who I'm happy to welcome back on with me last season for Maya Rudolph, who is now an SNL Hall of Famer. So Rebecca North, my guest, 1 for 1 in getting somebody into the SNL Hall of Fame. Rebecca, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Thomas. So much pressure now, but very, very excited to be back. I had a blast last season with you, and I'm really excited to talk about Aidy, which I know Maya was, in my mind, like a definitive shoo-in, and Aidy, I have to do a little more convincing, I think, due to the history of what happened last season with the Hall of Fame on this podcast. So I'm really excited to get into all of it.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear. Of course, Rebecca North, you were my teammate at SNL Trivia, Saturday Night Network. That was like, I think, our both kind of our SNL podcast debuts. We made it like the same night,
Yeah.
I think. So you're still appearing on the SNN, and so am I. Have you appeared on the SNN yet this season?
Yes, it's been a crazy time, as you know, even just catching up with you. Lots going on with work and stuff like that, but I actually was on a round table last week, so it was good to get in my season 50 debut into Saturday Night Network. But yeah, we were on my first episode of Saturday Night Network, and yours too, but that was my first podcast ever. So you were a great teammate to have alongside, because I mean, everyone listening already knows this, but you're so good and you make people feel so comfortable to talk to. So that was a really good inch into my podcasting career now. I think it's like 4 years later. So
right. Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, lots happened. I know we've been through a lot, but that was super fun. Can I ask you how your comedy career is going?
The comedy career is going. So when I moved to New York about a year and a half ago, and I was doing a lot of stand-up when I lived in Seattle, but New York, this scene is overwhelming, and I didn't even know where to start. So figured, why not start taking classes? So I took some sketch classes at the People's Improv Theater, and I ended up just kind of loving it a lot. And I always think of stand-up and comedy as like my winter activity. It's like a cozy activity for me when I don't want to leave the house, but it makes me leave the house. So I really feel like in my wave of stand-up, it really rises in the winter. So I've already started to write some new material and excited to get back into it after the holiday season.
That's so cool. I know a stand-up comedian. That's awesome. And more power to you. Like, my hat's off to you. I think I told you last time, I did like a 5-minute set one time just to try it out. And it was daunting. Like, writing the material I was a little more comfortable on stage than I thought. maybe the tequila
Yeah,
helped, but
I was gonna say, honestly, a lot of these clubs you can't even see that much because the lights are so bright that it's just like you're speaking to yourself, which I mean, I'm a pro at. So, so it's like looking into a computer screen right now, talking to you. So it's good. You should get back into it if you want. I know
I'm always thinking of material and stuff. So, but I'm looking forward to like if you want, like share with me when you're ready to share any videos that you have or something like.
I will.
Yeah. So that's awesome to hear. Is it fair to say that as far as your SNL fandom goes, that the era that Aidy Bryant was in, our nominee today, was like right smack dab in the middle of that?
Yep, exactly. So. When I started, I've watched SNL my whole life. My parents have always watched it. It's been on. So last time when I was on here to talk about Maya, that was probably the first time I've seen SNL. That's what I was raised on being younger. But when I took it upon myself and become a really big fan, that was probably end of high school, early college. I think a lot of it was correlated to like me becoming interested in politics, being able to vote at 18. So I think then in that time frame, Aidy was like the cast member. It was the trifecta. It was Aidy, Kate, and Cecily, and that's what really, really made me become a super fan of the show. So when you reached out, I was like, I need to get Aidy into this Hall of Fame because she's so special to me and was like the pinnacle of my SNL lifetime.
Yeah, I know you were so excited. And you mentioned the trifecta. Of course, we all think of like Kate, Aidy, Cecily. Like, what was it about Aidy, you think in particular, that may have, I know she was grouped with the other two, but I think she differentiated herself in a lot of ways too. Like, what did you notice as a viewer that Aidy was able to differentiate herself from the other two?
Yeah, well, such a toxic trait that I have, and I think so many viewers have, is you compare cast members. True. You compare cast members, you compare celebrities, and it's hard to like stand alone. But Aidy kind of came in and just was her own thing. And we saw in some of her most popular sketches, Aidy was Aidy. She was not the number one character actress on the show. Obviously, she had an impression here or there, but you look at Kate, impressionist. Kate is one of the best. Cecily, too, from a musical standpoint. But Aidy came in and it was like, wait, that's Aidy in the sketch. And that doesn't always work with people. Not being able to, I think the same with Pete Davidson, too. That's Pete. Will Ferrell. That's Will. Like, these people are standalone, but you know when they're come in the sketch, you're very comfortable with their presence in it. And that's not always the case. And Aidy, for me, I was just like, oh, this is such a good 80s sketch. And she really was a standalone name from the trifecta, too, that there were at least two that I'm thinking of that were like 80 in the name of the title of the sketch. So I think that's something to really note. And the reason why she stands out so much to me, because I really struggled to compare her to previous cast members or even current cast members.
Right. And you mentioned the word like comfortable. So there was like a sense of comfort with her. So there was like an approachability for me with Aidy that maybe, and this is no offense to Kate McKinnon, but I always felt like when I saw Kate on screen that she was in character, that I didn't really like always know the real Kate or see the real Kate kind of come on screen, which is a testament to her in a lot of ways. But with Aidy, I kind of felt when I saw her in sketches, like I know Aidy, and then there's like she makes me feel comfortable as a viewer. She seems very approachable, very easygoing, very sweet. So like her real personality really shined through, I think, on the screen for me. So that was
completely agree.
Yeah. So that was perfect that you used the word comfort. And with Kate in particular, she didn't get into the SNL Hall of Fame last year. She was on the ballot, which shocked me. I have Kate as like a top 10 cast member.
She's a Mount Rushmore for me, for sure.
Yeah.
So
that's not...
when I came here, I was like, how am I going to convince people to put Aidy into that? It is difficult when someone like Kate did not get voted into it. I do think that was to your point earlier in this episode, talking about current cast members don't have as much luck on it because also a lot of it's comparative. You compare people to someone else older. So you're like, but Kate's a modern day blank. So it's like, you would just have the original be in the Hall of Fame. And I think also a lot of it is time. Like a lot of the more recent cast members that are not on the show anymore have not had the opportunity to like have their standout project after the show. And I think that's a really huge thing. I mean, I think it was a little quicker back then, but you look at Sena, you look at Amy, and they had their standalone shows. And Aidy actually, even more so than majority of the current cast members, had that in Shrill. I mean, I don't think I can compare Shrill to the levels of Parks and Rec or 30 Rock, but Aidy was big enough leaving the show that they made an entire show surrounded around essentially Aidy. That like Aidy is such a good character in and of herself that they wanted to extract that and make a whole franchise over it. So I think that's the reason. It is a little confusing to me that Kate didn't get in here because she is definitely a Mount Rushmore for me.
Yeah, and it would be a little confusing to me if Aidy didn't get in.
Yeah,
I agree. They're both in their own right Hall of Fame performers, and we're going to tell you why. So
yes.
so where should we start? Like what things kind of stick out for you with Aidy, Rebecca?
So Aidy, initially, the first thing that comes to me is Weekend Update. I think she is so strong on the update desk, playing different characters, coming in with her own bits, that is the first place my mind goes. I mean, we even are seeing so far this season certain players that are coming on and they're really, really strong in Weekend Update, and that kind of cements you as a legend. And being known to be by yourself, well, with Che or Jose in this scenario, but being by yourself essentially, and being able to captivate, this is to the point of stand-up, being able to captivate people for 3 to 5 minutes, just portraying your own character, I think that's really, really telling. A couple of just the standouts, like Weekend Update segments here is the first one that ever comes to my mind is the travel expert.
Well, you want fun in the sun? Then head to Muskegon, Michigan. We had a magical night at my cousin's basketball tournament where I drank a red Gatorade, which made me look like I was wearing lipstick. And then I took a wrong turn into the boys' locker room where I saw a big boy changing. And Michael? On his belly, there were hairs.
Anytime I meet someone named Michael, I go, Michael,
yeah.
And I just like imagine Aidy in my head as that little girl on the update desk. And then the two others that I wrote down here, one is Mrs. Claus. That one, for some reason, it wasn't that much of a repeat. I don't even know if people are like, this is an Aidy moment, but that's a personal favorite that really, really entertains me. And then on her send-off in the last season, Trend Forecasters with Bowen, I think, is really, really strong. And I think that's what a lot of people are going to associate Aidy with if you just caught the end of her career on the show.
Our first category is fashion trends. In, shirt too big for body.
In, hat too small for head.
In, male cleavage.
And out,
Shiny shoe.
shiny shoe, you're out, so go back to hell.
Stop flaunting your wealth, shiny shoe.
We're fighting a virus.
If I see you in the street, I'll stab you in the face.
Go to bed, bitch.
Yeah, what does she do that like twice? The Trend Forecasters?
Yeah, they did it twice.
Yeah, and it was
I don't
such a
know.
perfect
I might be
send-off.
wrong. I think one was on her last episode.
It was. That was like her send-off, because I remember they kind of broke character, Bowen and Aidy, and they were kind of like sending, like, Bowen was basically sending her off and telling him how much he loved her and all of that. But I think you're right about update just in general. And my advice to new cast members, like I would ever have the ear of a new cast member, but if I do, my advice would be Weekend Update. If you're not getting in sketches, if you haven't shown some of the writers that you're like a solid, reliable sketch performer, try to get on Weekend Update. And you're right, we've seen Jane Wickline, we've seen Emil this season.
Marcelo even too, I think, and Sarah Sherman.
Marcelo, Sarah Longfellow
cemented themselves
100%.
like as strong cast members that you're on Update, and people are loving it. So, I mean, I would assume in the writer's room that you're getting like 10 different Update options. And the fact that these would keep winning, and these are only the top 3 of mine of 80s. I feel like she was always on that Update desk. I think her and Cecily, that was kind of throughout their era, they were both the ones that would come on the desk, and I would be like, okay, this is going to be good no matter what it is.
Yeah, and especially if you're somebody like Aidy, who we know is very likable and very charming, the quickest way to show that is let's get you on Update. Even if it's through like Mrs. Claus, who I think like her 9th episode or something, like she was on as Mrs. Claus. But even if it's through a character like that, they're going to get a sense of who you are. If it's just you, basically you to the camera, you to like Colin, or back then I think it was Seth maybe that she was interacting with.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get to know you. So I think you're right. Like the first thing you brought up was Weekend Update, and I think that hammers it home. Like that's how we got to know Aidy Bryant, and we ended up liking Aidy Bryant so
a lot. Yeah.
Early in her career too on SNL, she kind of had a breakout. She and Cecily had a little breakout with the Girlfriends talk show.
Today's guest is going to help us all get in the prom spirit because she was last year's prom queen. Camden Crothers.
Camden Crothers.
Thanks for having me.
What's that?
Just keeping it Boogie 100.
Boogie 100?
Yeah, you know, doing my thing, bling, bling, bling.
Well, Kira, why is she here? Last year I asked her to sign my yearbook and she wrote no thanks in it.
And I think that was like the first breakout for both Aidy and Cecily. I actually see the last time I was at the NBC stores like 2 years ago, they still have Girlfriends talk show merch in the NBC store last time I was there. That's how much it resonated, Rebecca.
It's good. It's a classic. I think Aidy plays so well with others. And I think that's even going back to your likability point. The reason why it works so well, and they were new to knowing each other, they were new to the show, but her chemistry just reads really well with people. I even feel like I listen to Las Culturistas, which is Bo and Yang's podcast. He has a lot of cast members on. He's had Aidy on. And anytime he talks about like interactions in SNL, people that he's close with, Aidy's a name that constantly pops up as someone that's such a mentor. And that is just so, her being likable is not just an act. So throwing her in early on in a kind of just spotlight segment with another newer cast member too, that is a little risky. Just have two new cast members basically like, here's your talk show, go for it. And she just plays so well with others without overpowering. But whenever she gets her lines in, even though she's maybe probably the more subdued in most like situations that we see her in, she always just has it. And like, she can just makes you feel comfortable and she can play so well with others like Cecily in the Girlfriends talk show. And I still believe that merch is there. I did the tour maybe like 9 months ago. And I remember seeing that one because it's fun to go into that store and just be like, what does SNL like? And what do they think that we like? And they're usually pretty right. So that merch was still there.
Yeah, that completely says a lot. And in this one, Aidy plays like somebody who's friends with like a Cecily, who's kind of a mean girl or who wants to be popular, and she ends up kind of snubbing her Aidy, who's supposed to be her friend, in favor of maybe somebody else who comes on the show, and she's like, "Oh, we're best friends," and then she's kind of a little mean to Aidy. So
it's so relatable.
I was actually wondering that, like how relatable is that dynamic?
It really is. I feel like it's funny that they do it as like being older, because that is like a dynamic that high school never ends, but that is such a high school like type of female interaction with each other. It's like there's always someone better. And even if you think you're in, which like in this case, Aidy's in the crowd, but then someone else comes on and then Cecily just like leaves her in the dust for the next cooler person. It's such a trope that you see because it's real. Like that happens. It happens in high school. It happens in college. It happens in the real world. It's just the way it is. It's such a girl thing. So the way that they even called it the Girlfriend talk show, like that is really encompassing of what they're trying to emulate in this.
Yeah. And even though Aidy plays this kind of doormat or like somebody who's so nice that like they're in a way kind of begging to be picked on, the real Aidy is very nice, as we've been saying, but she's also very confident.
Yes.
And we shouldn't mistake her niceness for lack of confidence, because as a performer, she knows who she is. She's super confident. I could even see her when you said like she kind of mentored Bowen and helped him out. I can see her being a good teacher and being with confidence telling Bowen, you know, here's my advice for this sketch, or here's what works, here's what Lorne tends to gravitate to. So like, don't mistake that niceness for confidence as far as I'm concerned.
No, I agree. I also think she has a really, really interesting career on the show. Like a lot of cast members, they come on and they are their person from the start to the end. Like think of someone like Bill Hader. Like Bill Hader has been who Bill Hader is, and he gets those sketches and he's in those scenarios where he's always himself. Like not even just himself. He's had the same trajectory and it's a great, great, great career on the show. But you look at Aidy, who was more of a doormat. I'm also thinking I can't. If the sketch where they're in an office setting and as a phrase, even more specifically back then, like, I can't. I literally can't. Oh my God, I can't. And Aidy is in like a full body cast and they're like, Aidy, open the window. And she's like, I can't. And then they're like, open the window. And she's like, no, I literally can't. And it is one of those. I don't even think it's as popular as it is in like my rotation of sketches, but that phrase has like was always a thing, being like, I can't. And I remember my dad being like, you can't what?
Exactly.
It's like in Mean Girls when they're like, shut up. And he's like, I wasn't talking. That's like the same vibe. And it's this whole office of like hipsters, I guess at that point. And they are literally just being so mean to Aidy, and who's in a full body cast and is like, no, but literally I can't. Like, let me do that. And I think it's so funny, but it really does show that she was more of the doormat type in the beginning. But then with her career growth on the show, some of my favorite sketches of later on seasons of Aidy are her being that confident, like we have the switch with Kim Kardashian, like confident Aidy doing that 80s dream. Yeah. Like those are so Aidy in her own like comfort zone.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Aidy's dream. Before we got on, you had mentioned something that I had noticed too. You're like, a lot of the sketches you can find on YouTube even start with like they have her name like Aidy in the title and everything. And Aidy's dream is one of the ones that's like one of my favorite later Aidy ones. And this does show like it's one that Aidy kind of made fun of herself for always playing like mom type roles and everything. Yeah. And that was the reason for the sketch. So what did you think of this Aidy dream one, aka the sexual woman?
My God, you are so beautiful and sexual, and I can tell by your personality is also very good.
Oh God, if I had a nickel for every time I heard a man say that, I'd have so many coins, it'd be annoying.
Oh, sexual woman, you make me so horny. I see why they call you the sexual woman.
So, yeah, I lied to Oscar Isaac. I told him I have a famous recurring character on the show called the sexual woman. Is that a crime?
I loved it. It was so funny and so unexpected because she's built this sort of like archetype for herself on the show that she is a mom. And also in my mind, even more than being the mom figure, she's always a little kid in my mind because maybe It's the update. It's the do it in my twin bed. Like she plays a little kid really well, which is really funny, that she goes from extremes. But this is Aidy just being like, I don't even know how old she was, but like late 20 something, 30 something, like year old woman. And like, this is my sexual dream. And I'm going to come on here and shock everyone and do it so flawlessly that you still see Aidy and you see the charm, but it's just so exciting to see her in different light, especially in the later half of her career on the show.
That wasn't my excitement. I have a visitor. I have an office mate today. So my dog Daisy is an Aidy Bryant fan, so she was chiming in with her 2 cents. No,
Daisy wants you to vote Aidy into the Hall of Fame.
If nothing else, vote Aidy in for Daisy, or you're gonna make her sad, and you don't want to make a 6-year-old dog sad. Please don't. And so it was. I love the premise. She said like after doing 100 of those types of characters, that the show gave her a chance to write something. It's just such fun, tongue in cheek. You have Oscar Isaac, like it says my actual name on the cue cards. Is that correct? And she's like, oh, those writers are dummies. Like, what are they? So we saw that side of Aidy in that. She developed an entire alter ego with her little baby Aidy in all of these. You mentioned "Do It in My Twin Bed." First got horny to you. I don't know if it was stated, but A Girl's Halloween is one of my favorites, and it was almost like really she played like a bad girl in that one. So it's kind of fun for me, Rebecca, for like to play off of Aidy's nice kind of persona and develop like little baby Aidy. And those pre-tapes in general are just classic.
So good.
I'm a back home bowler, and grandma says I look taller. They wait on me like I'm sickly. That's a life of a back home bowler. Taking out the trash on my neighbors spot me. They swarm around me like my own paparazzi. Talking and stalking, they can't get enough of me. Wondering, questioning, what's going on with me?
So what's going on with you?
The same. Okay, Jean. Bye.
also think a lot of it is just being like a woman in online and all the comments and remarks and in Hollywood, and you expect a certain type of person. And SNL has always kind of like surpassed those norms, but I think Aidy came in and like played to what she thought initially people expected from her or wanted from her. But then when she got really comfortable in her own skin and was like, wait, I am sexy and I want to be sexy on the show. Like she was able to do so. And I think that's also really, really important. And that's what I mean by growth. Like you don't always see that on a show like SNL because it is so comedy forward, but we look at Cecily going on Update, having her really serious moment. And I think that showed her growth. And then in my mind, in Aidy's serious growth is that she was able to say like, no, I don't care what anyone says about me. Like, I know I'm hot and like, I'm going to write something to show that. And I really think it was not only funny, but I think it was really exciting to see being like, good, you could break through this specific like stereotype of you on the show and just really shock us and wow us. And I think that a lot of cast members should look at that and learn from that. And I think, yeah, it's really exciting to watch like throughout her career.
Yeah, and Aidy, a lot of cast members might not even be in that position because Aidy's warmth, like she was so known for being just such a warm, comforting presence that you did have that to play against like a more gruff kind of, I don't know, little baby Aidy archetype. Yeah, but yeah, if we started getting to know a cast member for a specific thing, you're right. It is good to like switch it up. Show us another move. And yeah, she definitely did. As far as we had talked about Kate earlier, and I know like it was obviously a comparison, Aidy, Kate, Cecily, and but I want to talk about her and Kate as a dynamic duo. Honestly, Rebecca, one of the best duos of all time. Like, where do you have Kate and Aidy in terms of duos in SNL history?
The duos are really up there for me and them. I mean, my favorite duo of all time is going to be Tina and Amy. And then you have Kristen and Maya, and you have Aidy and Kate. And I feel like it's every generation has their like female duo that like, actually doesn't even need to be female. Because I would say like, we look at like Bowen and Heidi or Ego, and like you see the same side of things like that. And
in
I
my
think
day, it was Mike Myers and Dana Carvey, Adam Sandler, Chris Farley, or honestly, Jan Hooks and Nora Dunn.
Yeah. So it's, I think they balance each other so well because Aidy's really good at just playing like the straight character that like doesn't always have all the punchlines. And I think that's also so important in the show. I think that was a lot of the argument I made to Maya in terms of her and Kristen and their relationship. It's Maya's hysterical, but in a lot of those duo scenarios, Kristen was like more of the attention on it, but they only worked because Maya was there. And I'm going to say the same for Aidy and Kate. Kate is obviously very, very kooky. She's one of the kookier cast members in recent seasons, and having someone that balances it while also still being able to be showcased, because Kate is not overpowering. And she had the option in a lot of her time in the show to be overpowering because a lot of the things were built around her. They were written being like, okay, this is such a Kate sketch. Like it's not even in a question who's going to play her. But being able to work so well together that they know how to not only let one another shine, but complement each other's style so much. Like Kate's always going to be loud, screaming, doing those things. And Aidy's not, but sometimes it left me like hearing out for what Aidy's punchline would be. Yeah. And it was typically funnier than like the funniest part of the sketch. So I think as a duo, they definitely rank really, really high. In the past, like 10 years, I think they're probably the best duo to be on the show.
They're the duo. Yeah,
I agree.
For sure of that time period. And you're right, like Kate is obviously this just like really loud performer and very big characters and big performances. Says a lot about Aidy though that Kate was able to give way and let Aidy have certain lines or certain things. Like she was definitely of the duo. Kate was still the one that like probably popped. That's just how she is. But she did give a lot away to Aidy, and that's what made it work. Like I'm thinking of like when again Weekend Update when they did the Starkey sisters when they were showing like the meats and stuff and that whole like gosh that was one of my favorites. Like
that was on my list. That and
it?
Supermarket Sweeps.
Oh,
that one too is so good.
And that one, they always play that one. And what else was it? Like the apple picking one. They played like
Yes.
like a couple. Like they love, like, especially Supermarket Sweep. It was like, okay, early 90s, we're not saying that the contestants are a couple, they're friends, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And they just had a blast doing that. Supermarket Sweep's one of my favorites.
All right, Chris and Gina, since you're in the lead, you'll get to do the mini sweep. Now, if you find the specially marked golden blueberries, you'll win $5,000. Are you ready?
I got this, and I got you, babe. Thank you for today, and all the days in the future, and all the days that we have had forever together.
And go!
Okay. Ooh. Oh, God! Oh, no! Oh, my ankles! You gotta go on without me! No, I'm never leaving you again. You have to! Oh, like hell I do!
40 seconds on the clock.
I think as a duo, they're really, really powerful. I think it's also, like, warms the heart that they couldn't last on the show without one another because they left at the same time. And I think that was a huge, huge shift in the show. Not to say modern day cast isn't awesome, but I think there was a real shift that I don't know if we've quite bounced back from yet. Obviously, it was a good, like, ease into it to still have Cecily on the cast, but, like, them and Pete leaving all in the same episode, that one definitely, like, hit the heartstrings and really affected the current day of the show that I think they're just now getting back to, like, standard show. So yeah. I think them coming on, Aidy definitely had a slower rise to her career than I think Kate did in popularity. But going back to Shrill, like, it is really saying that she left the show and had a really successful sitcom about her after. A lot of them have sitcoms. They're not always that successful. And I would say Shrill's really successful in terms of Saturday Night Live, like, immediate after you leave the show.
It absolutely is. And Lauren, like, he saw it too, because Lauren helped, like, produce that. And he's really good about helping former cast members and cast members kind of with other projects and giving them guidance. And I know he was instrumental in helping Aidy, and that says a lot that Lauren looked at this project and looked at Aidy and said, you're going to kick ass at this.
Yeah, I think it's because she's such a standout. Like, it is really hard to compare her. And I think she's even set the scene for, like, what it can be to, like, have your own character on the show, as in, like, you're still you. So she's still Aidy, but then blend in a really good way. I think last season we started to see that with Sarah Sherman. Obviously, they are polar opposites, if that, like, of people. But Sarah on her first season was so Sarah. But then last season you started seeing her being just, like, more of a mom type, a kid type. And I think that is what really cements success on the show. I mean, I just saw the movie, like, Saturday night, and obviously that was, like, an hour and a half before the show, but you even saw the huge personalities fighting for the spotlight, and it led to all of their demises on the show. But the fact that Aidy was able to be really, really good and reliable in the back, the way that Heidi, I think, is, and the way that, like, in Ego is these days, that I'm, like, thinking of the show, and Mikey, Sarah's gone back into that now, where she was, like, Sarah Sherman, but now she's not. She could have a bob as a wig, and, like, you're not going to know. I think Aidy kind of really set the tone for that. That's, like, when she goes on Update or when there's a sketch revolving around her, you know what you're going to get from Aidy. But she was actually in so many things, just like helping move it along, which I think shows she's not only that, but a good player, which I know we keep saying, like, she's so sweet and makes everyone so comfortable. So that's why.
Part of making the show great and making a good episode of SNL is having those people who just want to be great team players. Like, they don't have to be the star. They can be, but they want to be great team players. So I think there is a lot to be said, especially with the Hall of Fame case. I think there is so much to be said for Aidy as a great team player. So I think that was really, really well put.
Also, like, we've seen big saturated casts these past, like, 10 years, and she was still able, we're talking about her now as a standalone, and Lauren had confidence with her as a standalone that, like, there's a reason why I can't even think of that many people in the modern day that's had multiple sketches where it's completely revolved around you and even has your actual name in it. Like, that really says something. And I think a big call out is not only was she good mentor for the cast and internally, the guests and hosts loved her. Like, that's a lot we're seeing with Bowen these days, that, like, besides the fact that Bowen's actually friends with them, which is a whole different thing, Aidy made them comfortable. And I know I watched the Kardashians when Kim was on it, and she was so nervous and had so many people helping her. And they did just the one together where they switched. And Kim even mentioned in it that it was like the most comfortable. She had so much fun with Aidy on the cast, and she made the host feel really, really comfortable and confident. That's why we saw her in a lot of like, I always look at like what they drop before the episode. Who's going to be standing with the host and musical guest. Yeah. And she was in so many of those. And I think that's really telling.
That really says a lot. Like just her overall presence just makes things better for sure. One of the other things too that really stood out to me is, do you remember the at-home episodes? During COVID, yes. They did the at-home
Can't forget those.
Yeah, right. I know. It's almost like it seems so long ago, but also just like yesterday at the exact same time. But
yes.
She had one of my favorite sketches of the at-home episodes. It was this visualizations with Aidy Bryant. So it was like she was doing this like meditation thing. She's like, let's visualize some things.
For me, it's sometimes easy to think about things one at a time. So smiles, simple. You're in smiles now. How about hot dogs? Yeah, summertime hot dogs. What about World War I? Sorry, I'm sorry. How about warm, fresh bread with butter? How about dancing? Yes, you and your best friends who are all senior women are dancing in this rec center. Go, girl.
That really stood out to me. It was so clever.
Yes.
Such good comedic timing. And with those, like I think they were able to probably email back and forth with writers and get help. But really, for the most part, these were their ideas as cast members. So that showed a lot to me that Aidy really excelled in the at-home episodes with her ideas, and she put them together.
That's a really good call out. When I think back to those at-home episodes, like the three people that stand out that really helped carry those along were Kate, Aidy, and Pete Davidson's mom. So like, those are what really, really like, when I think back to it, like they were the ones that did it. And I actually don't even know her history as it pertains to writing, but I definitely can confidently say like, if she has not been a writer before, then there's a good future with her helping to write on a lot of things. And she's just so good and knows what works for herself. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, I think if you have a good comedic mind, the writing can come. Like you can learn how to structure things and get tips from like the professional writers. Her background's more the kind of typical sketch background, like working in sketch troupes and coming up along the way. And of course you have to write. If you're in sketch prior to SNL, that means you're writing your stuff too. So I think she honed her writing skills then, but you're right. It seems like she developed into a really good writer. She can flesh out concepts. But that visualizations one is just one that stood out to me. Like, this is so clever and such good timing. And Aidy's just
and it worked for being at home.
Yeah, for that she understood the context too. Like, what are people using? They're using like these fancy like these images behind them during meetings, during Zoom calls and stuff. So I'm going to utilize that in my at home sketch.
Yeah. It was good. It worked.
Anything else that our voters should kind of know when it comes to Aidy Bryant?
I go back to my list. I think so. No, not specifically. I mean, Awkward Slumber Party was just the other sketch that we didn't talk about. That is so Aidy Bryant to me, and like flirting with the dad and awkward. I don't know. She just always makes me laugh in her characterizations. Why I think so, like, she's just so standard and good, and we had her for so many years, and I feel comfortable whenever she's in a sketch. I can't even think of like, and I guarantee there is, but I can't think of anything that pops out as like a huge flop in terms of Aidy, and that's even more so on a Weekend Update. I think the reason why she would get in the Hall of Fame over even Kate at this point is because of her Weekend Update work. So she's kind of a good, I know I hate comparing them, but like her and Kate work so well in Sketchworks. She doesn't have the impressions as much, but Cecily and Aidy were really, really strong on the update desk. And I think that's really telling. And it's why I'm confident if people think of a more modern day mindset, although we don't have as many examples of following work after being on the show, because it's very, very new and recent, it's the past couple of years, then just think about the future she can have on the show. And I could see her in a Bridesmaids. I could see all of them, honestly, like recreating a Bridesmaids-esque movie, Wine Country. You're thinking of all the really strong female duos and just groups of people that we've had like a bunch of really successful movies after. And I'm seeing this for Aidy, and I'm seeing it for Kate, Cecily. Like, I think it's going to be really exciting, and there's a lot to come with her. So I'm excited to see the rest of her career.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. There's a couple of songs before we start wrapping this up that I urge people to go watch again. One of them, both of them actually were from season 45, Joan, where she played the cat lady. Yes. Harry Styles ended up playing her cat, and so she was said like she's like married to her cat. It was just a really funny song from the perspective of a cat lady. I think it was a really sweet song.
Watches me while I get ready. Then we share a bowl of meatballs and spaghetti. Oh, Doug, how I wish you could speak. Even for a moment just to make a squeak. I think I know what you'd say, but I like to imagine it anyway.
Joan, I love you. Love the way you feed me ham. You're my wife, my love, my everything. I love you just the way you am.
And there's one kind of goofy one, and I actually heard her on a long-form podcast with Jesse David Fox talk about this one specifically. It's called Overnight Salad with Daniel Craig. She's played this mom that has like this, she makes this overnight salad and puts all sorts of weird things in. She's so happy about it. She can't wait to feed it to her family. And then they just rip on it so hard, and you feel bad for her. Like Aidy makes you feel bad for her. Like she has such a, like, that's one of her powers, is just like sympathize with her.
When they take a big bite of my overnight salad, be the ultimate prize. My husband, king of the guys, when he chomps into a slice of my overnight salad, it's all over their face. My family loves it.
Oh my God, Nadine, this tastes like... What the hell is wrong with you? I thought you were going to make a salad.
It's my overnight salad.
Mayonnaise and lettuce.
So those are two things, Rebecca, that I would urge people, like two songs like Aidy got to sing in those sketches.
Wait, that's a good call out. I feel like specifically even in season 50, there are a couple of sketches where it's really, they're honing in on emotion and then a twist. So we've seen that a few times so far this season, which is kind of different for the show to do, where it's like a lot of it you're not quite understanding and you're feeling bad for a character, like actually feeling emotion, and then the twist. And this is what Aidy excelled in before the show was even like focusing on. So yes, it's relatable stuff. So you feel bad for her on the girlfriend show. You feel bad for her on the overnight salad, but then it's also really funny. And I think that's a superpower, to be able to make people feel emotion other than laughter when your pure goal is to get people to laugh, but you take them on a journey emotionally too, with like, just by being charismatic. So I think
Beppo
right now she would be great.
I'll tell you that one.
Beppo is specifically who I was referring to, although it's controversial. I didn't think Beppo was cute and didn't do it for me, but I get the point. And I think Aidy could really excel. And honestly, like I'm excited to see what she's going to do in the 50th special. She's going to be in it. And to be fair, I'm assuming she's going to be in it. I don't know for a fact. I'd be really shocked if she wasn't. And I think that makes a Hall of Famer. I think your episodes after that airs are going to be a little different, because you're going to be saying like, look how solid this person is. They were in the 50th special. There's a big thing. And I think Aidy will be someone that will really have a focus on that.
I agree with you. But even more so than the 50th special, I mean, she has to come back to host soon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because we've seen Pete host. We saw Kate host. Like, I think Aidy would be a good host, right?
I think she'd be an awesome host. I'd actually be really excited for her to host, because I think it'd be very different than what we've saw of her on the show. So she's on my list of people that I actually think it's super feasible for her to come back and host this season. I think of all the more recent cast members that aren't on it anymore, that would be, I think her, Beck Bennett would be my top two of just come back and host this season, because they've been off of it enough that I think it would be good for them to come back. So hopefully they're promoting something, and then Aidy can come back on and host.
Yeah, no kidding. Even if they're not promoting something, just get Aidy to host.
That's fair.
That's what the people want.
I know it is, but I feel like they've been really, really doing the promotional stuff these days. So
yeah, you're right.
So
just need to find a
wishful
reason.
Thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. So now's the time to kind of like put this in a little nice bow and maybe Cliff's notes it or something. Why should Aidy Bryant get serious consideration? Hint, hint, for the people who didn't vote for Kate last year.
Mm-hmm.
Why should Aidy get serious consideration for the SNL Hall of Fame, Rebecca?
So first of all, Aidy aside, Aidy should be in it because she's a more modern day cast member, and we have to stop hating on them just because they haven't had a whole bunch of years since they've left the show to really prove themselves in media and in society as a staple. She's already kind of done that in her couple of years off. I think Shrill was very, very successful. Honestly, a lot more successful than I initially thought it would be so soon to her leaving the show. So I think this is not only just for Aidy, this is for all the modern day people who are no longer on the show. So think Cecily, think Kate, do it for them so we don't lose faith in you, the listeners, to vote in people that have left in the past 5 years from the show. But that aside, I think Aidy on the show, initially looking at this, I don't know. I think I kind of convinced myself through this conversation that like, I was a little unsure. She was something that I personally would want to see, but I'm like, why would other people vote for her? And it's because she was such a staple for so many years in the modern age of the show that was not only dependable, but there's heart in it. And she loved the show and she loved being there and working with it. And more so, she had a good career growth. And I mean, think of it that way. It's not only, she didn't come in at 100, but she came in at what, like 80? And then, wow, that was good. She came in at an 80. And then she made her way up to 100 by the end where she fully came into herself. Her stuff looked different from her first season to her last season. And she's someone that did leave a big hole in the show and in our hearts. So I think you should vote for her to honor her and to really show, hey, Aidy, we appreciated you on the show.
So there's that. I want to thank Rebecca North and Thomas Sena for that tremendous conversation about Aidy Bryant. If you were unconvinced before, maybe you are convinced now to use one of your 15 votes and cast it for Aidy Bryant as a Hall of Fame member. What's interesting to me is listening, I get this perch. I'm very fortunate to get to hear these conversations and sort of listen to similarities. And it seems to me that cast members and hosts to a certain degree that work well with other people tends to be a trait that Hall of Famers all share. And we heard a lot in this episode about Aidy being one of those cast members. She can be the character, she can be the supporting person, she can be a background player, and she'll enhance your scene. And then, of course, there's her appearances on Weekend Update, which we are going to get to right now. This is a performance from Weekend Update where Aidy plays Carrie Crum. I know you're hearing me say that, and you are excited because Carrie Crum is always a hit on Weekend Update. She is the travel expert, and let's give that a listen right now.
Break is around the corner, which means families across the country are heading out on vacation. Here with her insider tips is 7th grade travel expert Carrie Crum. Hi, Carrie. So how's your trip to New York?
Oh, I love it. I saw a cop on a horse yell at a bus.
Cool. So where should people head for spring break?
Well, spring break means fun, sun, and music on the beach. So you gotta head to Boise, Idaho. It checks every box. Grammy, my step-grandpa, aka Peepo, and their cat that's so old it has an IV hanging from the chandelier. Not to mention, their neighbor has a daughter who's my age, and she put eyeshadow on me, Michael. And Michael? Yeah. When the pizza guy saw me, he asked if we were having a party.
Okay, that sounds like what your family did in Boise. Yeah. Any ideas for what other people can do?
Oh, yeah, well, an absolute must-see is my Grammy's cul-de-sac. It is primo rollerblade country. But travelers, please learn from my mistake and do not rollerblade on gravel, okay? I fell and scraped my chin, and my brother said it looked like I had a blood goatee. And at the time, I was mad. But now, I gotta give it up for the blood goatee. That's good.
Okay, well, for spring break, a lot of people like to go to the beach. Do you have any beach recommendations?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Oh, sure. Say aloha to the beaches of Western Pennsylvania. I'm talking in Lake Erie, go ankle deep in this ice-cold water that stinks. And Michael, did you know that flies can be on the beach?
No, that's cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And also, we had to stop in Pittsburgh on the way to see my dad's side of the family, and my brother had to wear a yarmulke to dinner. And Michael,
Yeah.
it looked like half of a bra. Oh, God.
Well, at least it sounds like you have fun wherever you go.
Oh, yeah, but trips aren't always easy, you know? One time in the car, I told my family that I loved my mom more than my dad, and everyone got really quiet. But that's life on the road, Michael.
It absolutely is.
Oh, and Michael?
Yeah.
Safety.
Oh, no. Carrie Crum, everybody.
Sorry, Emma Stone gave me a bunch of corn dogs.
All right, that was Aidy Bryant portraying one of her most popular characters on Weekend Update, Carrie Crum, a 7th grade travel expert. You know, you just know when these Weekend Update characters come on and they're experts, they're just going to throw you a curveball. So there's that. That's what I've got for you this week. Remember to vote when voting opens. Next week, we do our annual Don Pardo episode. So you don't have to worry about that being on your ballot because it won't be. It's the Don Pardo Award and it is given out by the Hall of Fame committee. So there's that. Following that, we do our very popular roundtable episode. And then from there, we do our finale where we announce the season 6 class of the SNL Hall of Fame. Now, if you would do me a favor and on your way out, as you walk past the Weekend Update exhibit, turn out the lights because the SNL Hall of Fame is now closed.
Thanks for listening to the SNL Hall of Fame podcast. Make sure to rate, review, share, and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media at SNLHOF. This is Doug Denant saying, see you next week.
Podcasts and such.
You can have it all. Great pay, awesome benefits, a flexible schedule, the chance to grow. At Cox, we're recruiting auto and diesel technicians to join our Mannheim and Fleet Services teams. If you're ready for a new job and want to experience an award-winning workplace, drive your career forward with us. Visit cox.career/autotech to learn more. That's cox.career/autotech.
The most wonderful time of the year. Although, let's be honest, around the holidays, things really add up. But here's the good news. Only at Verizon, you can get a single line for $50 per month when you switch and bring your phone. So while ice skating for two is definitely costing more, here at Verizon, you can save. Gifts for your third cousins? Steep. A single line with Verizon? Not so steep. A real tree? Pricey. A single line with Verizon? Less pricey. Flights to see Mima and Pops? Those are up. A $50 per month single line? That's down. Even a trip to the Atlanta Holiday Market will cost you more. But with Verizon, you can switch and bring your phone for just $50 per month for a single line on unlimited welcome, with autopay plus taxes and fees. All this to say, during the holiday season, when everything is costing more, you can get more for less right now at a local Verizon store. $15 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G, 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply.